In this video, we are in London along the Thames South Bank to check out an acclaimed cocktail bar called Lyaness. So please join us as we take a look at the space, enjoy some incredible views of the River Thames, try a little food, and of course sample 5 very unusual cocktails to see if Lyaness is worth you giving a visit. Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are in beautiful London, England, and after spending some time exploring the city, we're heading over to the South Bank to visit a cocktail bar I've wanted to try for quite a while called Lyaness. Lyaness is located inside the Sea Containers London Hotel, directly along the River Thames. It was opened on March 29th, 2019 by award-winning bartender Ryan Chetiyawardana, better known as Mr Lyan, and his team. Interestingly, Lyaness replaced another Mr Lyan cocktail bar called Dandelyan, which had occupied the same space and had been named the world's best bar in 2018. Rather than simply continuing with a successful concept, the team closed Dandelyan and completely reimagined the space as Lyaness. Since opening, Lyaness has developed a pretty incredible reputation of its own. In 2022, it was named both the Best International Hotel Bar and the World's Best Bar at the Tales of the Cocktail Spirited Awards. Its 3.0 cookbook later received the Best Cocktail Menu Award from the World's 50 Best Bars in 2024, and it also became the first bar to receive 3 pins from the Pinnacle Guide. So this is not just another hotel bar with a nice view. Lyaness is considered one of the most innovative and highly awarded cocktail bars in the world. So today, let's see whether the drinks, service, atmosphere, food, and overall experience really live up to all that acclaim. But before we head inside, let's see what people are saying about Lyaness online. Now, at the time of recording, Lyaness had a 4.6 on Yelp, although that was based on only 22 reviews. On Google, it also had a 4.6, but this time based on a much more substantial 2,238 reviews. So overall, the scores are very consistent and extremely positive. For the positives, people repeatedly mentioned the cocktails, the service, and the atmosphere. One reviewer described the cocktails as impeccable and said that the staff made them feel completely taken care of throughout the evening. Others praised the creativity of the drinks, the views across the Thames, and the small bites, with one person saying that Lyaness had become their new favorite cocktail spot on the South Bank. However, there were some negative reviews as well. One reviewer felt that the menu used pompous names and overly elaborate descriptions, only for the actual drinks to taste bland and lack originality. Another person complained that the staff removed empty glasses too quickly and repeatedly asked whether they wanted another drink, making the experience feel pushy and rushed. So, are the positive reviews correct, or are they negative? Well, let's find out for ourselves and head on over there. So now that we are seated, let's take a look at the cocktail menu. The menu during our visit was called the collaboration menu. Rather than focusing only on collaborations between bartenders or brands, the team looked at unusual partnerships involving people, technology, different industries, and even relationships found in nature. They then used those stories to create 12 original ingredients and cocktails based around the idea that bringing different perspectives together can produce something greater than either could create alone. Each drink includes a short explanation of the collaboration that inspired it, followed by its ingredients. We're not going to cover every cocktail, but the stories range from Lego working with MIT to relationships between animals, plants, fungi, and bacteria. This results in some pretty crazy ingredients, including jellyfish, endless table sauce, bear beer, and Lego olive oil. However, those are not the only drinks on the menu. After we go through all these 12 drinks, you reach another section, the classics section. However, these are not simply regular classics. They are Lyaness's own creative interpretations of familiar cocktail styles, including drinks such as the Rapaport, their complex take on a Martini. Next, you reach a section called a pantry of sorts, which explains unusual house-made ingredients that we talked about before, such as endless table sauce and purple bitters, along with the fermentation, distillation, and other techniques used to create them. Finally, the menu ends with a key that ranks the drinks from lighter to darker, helping you choose between brighter, fresher cocktails and richer, deeper options. Between that chart, the pantry guide, and help from the staff, the menu, while at first looking intimidating, becomes much easier to navigate. Now, let's get into the drinks we ordered. So for our first cocktail, we have the Lion King, made with Maker's Mark, endless table sauce, gooseberry, jellyfish, and citrus bitters. Yes, this cocktail has jellyfish in it. However, it is actually used to help begin the fermentation process rather than for taste. Despite that crazy list, the finished drink was surprisingly approachable. You get bourbon warmth, tart gooseberry, and citrus, followed by a subtle savory depth. This drink was bright, complex, and a great introduction to Lyaness. The second drink we had in our first round was the No Spoon Old Fashioned, made with mezcal, walnut honey, and purple bitters. The purple bitters are made using floral hibiscus, which is definitely not something you normally expect in an old fashioned. However, in this drink you get plenty of smokiness from the mezcal, while the walnut and honey adds rich, nutty sweetness. Then that floral bitterness comes through on the finish. This drink was smoky rich and a very enjoyable twist on the classic. For our next round, we ordered the Rapaport, and this seems to be Lyaness's take on a Martinez, with Ford's gin, tree caramel, microorganisms, nuked vermouth, and Vohr's sherry. Now that's a crazy ingredient list for sure, especially those microorganisms. However, the microorganisms come from a special sequential fermentation process designed to produce a deep berry and forest-like flavors. And they sure did. You get botanical notes from the gin, followed by the darker, almost woody flavors of the tree caramel. Then the vermouth and sherry bring in a combination of fruitiness, nuttiness, and a little oxidation. I also get a really nice, almost yogurt-like tartness, which worked really well and took this drink to the next level for me. The Rapaport was complex, layered, and unique. It blew me away, and I would put it squarely on my Mount Rushmore of cocktails as one of the best drinks I've ever had. For the other drink in this round, we ordered the Tornado Sazerac, and this was another fascinating drink. The cocktail was inspired by reports that the air before a tornado can smell like a struck match. The cognac gave it a rich, warming foundation, while the grenadine brings in some fruitiness and sweetness. You then get those woody and smoky aromas from the oud and struck match elements, followed by a bitter finish from those death bitters that keeps everything balanced. This was another incredible cocktail and one of the more unusual Sazerac variations we have tried. I would definitely order it again. Along with the cocktails, we decided to order a few small bites. Now the food is in a separate menu, and it all looks so good, but we did have an early dinner already, so we didn't order as many dishes as I would have liked to. Of course, they also have wine, beer, and spirits as you can see in this menu as well, if that's what interests you. For food, we ended up ordering 2 dishes, the fries with Old Bay mayonnaise, and the 4 cheese croquettes with jalapeno mayonnaise. Now, the fries arrived first, and I have to say that they were nicely cooked, crisp on the outside and soft and fluffy inside. However, what really made them stand out was the Old Bay mayonnaise. It was creamy, slightly tangy, and had that familiar savory seasoning and subtle spice from the Old Bay. I would definitely order these again. Then we had the 4 cheese croquettes. Now my memory tells me they said the filling included cheddar, Gruyere, Parmesan, and Fontina, although I could be remembering that incorrectly. Either way, they had a crisp outer coating with a warm, rich, and extremely creamy and cheesy filling inside. The jalapeno mayonnaise worked particularly well, adding a little heat and freshness that helped cut through all that richness without being overly spicy. Another great snack. Later in the evening, the staff brought over Lyaness's 5-drink special editions menu, which is like a mini version of the collaboration menu. After a brief explanation about the idea behind the collection, you have an ingredient guide that breaks down some of the unusual house-made components and techniques used in the drinks. After that, you reach the 5 cocktails themselves, which is where most of the menu's detail is focused. The selection includes a champagne cocktail made with Laurent Pierre Rosé, wild harvested rooibos, and honey sourced from a single hive. Then you have a rare Polish vodka martini, the Score. Then you have the Adam Martini, which uses Don Julio 1942 and fermented butternut squash. After that, you have the single blend beeswax Old Fashioned. This is an elevated version of one of Mr Lyan's original signature cocktails, which combines an extremely rare scotch from Dornoch Distillery with beeswax from a single hive, which adds body and aromas resembling a handmade candle in a metal. Then finally, you have a rich, delicious Koji whiskey sour. Each one has a detailed story explaining the ingredients, producers, and techniques behind the drink. Finally, the menu ends with its own chart ranking the cocktails from lighter to richer. These drinks take Lyaness's usual experimental approach and elevate it through especially premium spirits, rare ingredients, and more time-consuming preparation. I also appreciate that the staff did not push this more expensive menu immediately. They waited until they understood our tastes and felt that some of the drinks would genuinely appeal to us. For our final drink of the evening, we decided to order something from the special editions menu called the Adam Martini. This drink is made with Don Julio 1942 tequila, butternut squash, microorganisms, and birch sherry. In this drink, the squash is exposed to a cascade of flavor-friendly bacteria, transforming its vegetal qualities into citrus and nectarine-like flavors. That sounds completely bizarre, but the finished cocktail was complex yet delicate and surprisingly elegant. You get vanilla richness from the Don Julio 1942, along with soft fruitiness from the fermented squash, and a dry, slightly nutty finish from the sherry. This was another incredible drink and definitely a memorable way to finish the evening. The price was completely worth it. Well, we are all finished up here at Lyaness, so as we head out, let's go over the positives, neutral, and negatives of this bar. Now for the positives, we have the drinks, service, atmosphere, food, and pricing. Now, to start with the drinks, they were exceptional. The Rapaport cocktail alone, I'm still thinking about it. However, I don't want to shortchange that Sazerac or Adam Martini. While the Rapaport was my favorite, both of those drinks also blew me away, and I would definitely have them again. All of the cocktails were not only just delicious, but creative, technically impressive, and completely different from what you will find at most bars. However, they were not weird merely for the sake of being weird. When you read ingredients such as jellyfish, microorganisms, struck-match grenadine, and death bitters, it's easy to assume the drinks are going to be overly experimental or possibly unpleasant, but that was not our experience at all. Every strange ingredient appeared to have a purpose. The cocktails were balanced, flavorful, and approachable, while still being distinctive enough to make the experience memorable. Next, we have the service. The service at Lyaness was some of the best we've had in London, and we have had some exceptional service here overall. Everybody was really friendly, helpful, and knowledgeable. This is especially important with a cocktail menu this complex. Everyone we interacted with were able to explain the unusual ingredients and help us choose drinks based on the flavors, spirits, and styles we normally enjoy. In fact, our three favorite drinks, the Rapaport, the Adam Martini, and the Sazerac, were all recommendations from them. They were also attentive without making us feel rushed. Our water was taken care of, the pacing between rounds was good, and we never felt as though the staff was pushing us to order another cocktail before we were ready. Then we have the atmosphere. Lyaness is a beautiful bar. The electric blue color palette gives the room a distinctive personality, while the original green marble bar retained from Dandelyan adds some history to the space. Then of course you have those incredible views across the River Thames. It feels elegant and upscale, but not overly stiff or formal. You could come here for a date night, bring friends who appreciate cocktails, or simply sit back and enjoy the view with a drink by yourself. The atmosphere is impeccable. Then we have the food. This was another positive. While we didn't have many, the small plates we had were flavorful and worked extremely well alongside the cocktails. Now, while I would not necessarily come to Lyaness specifically for a full dinner, the food is definitely worth a try and not just an afterthought which can happen at some cocktail bars. Finally, we have the pricing. Lyaness is certainly not cheap. However, the regular menu cocktails were reasonably priced for a bar of this quality and location in London. In fact, they were a few pounds cheaper than many of the other bars I went to, all of which did not have this incredible view. So considering the techniques, unusual house-made ingredients, location, and level of service, we thought the prices were really good. Even the Adam Martini, while significantly more expensive than the regular menu items, was not as highly priced as similar options I have seen on other bars' special menus. Now moving on to our neutral, we just have one, pre-batching. As always, when a bar pre-batches its cocktails, I am going to mention it. However, Lyaness, like Silver Lion, is one of those places where pre-batching makes sense. They're using fermentations, custom distillations, microorganisms, specially developed bitters, and other processes that cannot realistically be completed every time someone places an order. So pre-batching makes sense here. As for the negatives, we did not find any major ones during our visit. Now, let's quickly address some of those reviews from earlier. Overall, we agree with the positive reviews, not the negative. Based on our experience, the drinks were delicious, complex, original, and the flavors backed up the descriptions, so we didn't agree with that negative review. We also found the service during our visit to be attentive, knowledgeable, and well-paced. We never felt rushed or pressured to order another round. So once again, we found the positive comments about the service to be much more accurate than the negative ones. So what are our final thoughts on Lyaness? Well, we loved it. The drinks were inventive, unique, and extremely well balanced. The staff helped make a potentially intimidating menu feel much more accessible, the food was delicious, and the atmosphere combined an elegant interior with one of the best cocktail bar views in London. Lyaness manages to be experimental without forgetting that the final product still needs to taste good. It is definitely a must visit. Now, if we lived in London, Lyaness would definitely be in our regular rotation. For tourists visiting London, Lyaness is a must visit, especially if you are serious about cocktails. It not only has a reputation and awards, but it also provides a complete experience. Creative drinks, excellent service, an impressive setting, food, and beautiful views of the Thames River. If you are not normally drawn to extremely experimental cocktails, speak with the staff and let them guide you towards something that fits your preferences. The menu may look intimidating, but the experience itself is welcoming and surprisingly approachable. Overall, Lyaness absolutely lived up to its reputation and was one of the highlights of our London cocktail bar visits. Well, those are our final thoughts on Lyaness. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please let us know what you think, or if you have visited Lyaness yourself, in the comments below. Also, if you have any questions or thoughts, please leave those in the comments as well. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, subscribe, and that bell icon so you get notified whenever we post a new video. And most importantly, always drink responsibly. Thank you for watching, and please join us again on Boozy Explorers.